The vintage VHS does not accept the cassette, so if I would push it, it doesn't work. You notice there is this sensor here right on the side, so it's like a plastic bracket, and there is diode in the top on top of it and has a small hole, and there is a diode on the other side as well, so it's another sensor there. And mine, either this became misaligned a little bit because this sensor basically points towards inside, and when it sees the cassette it should react and pull the cassette inside. Either the bracket did become misaligned because it actually can move a little bit, either there is this dirt, actually a little bit of grease right in front of the metal piece. Basically, when you set the cassette, notice that the metal piece moves in front of the sensor, so the sensor doesn't detect this movement. Let me just try to clean maybe this bit of grease here. And by the way, the unit is plugged into the wall, so very careful. It's 110 volts, not to touch anything here if you are working live. So let's just try to wipe off that grease and see if it does change something. No. One other thing I'm going to try now, you'll see I'm going to just try to keep pushing a little bit. Don't force because it's not very strong. Just move a little bit the sensor forward and push the cassette at the same time. So I'm pushing the sensor, and let's try to insert the cassette, and it grabs it right away. Start spinning all the stuff. So really this sensor, for some reason, maybe I don't know, maybe when I put some grease on that metal piece I did push back the sensor, but for some reason it simply did move back a little bit. So I'm going to just to try to stabilize it, I'm going to insert something underneath. We'll try to fix this in some way, but I'm just pointing to the problem for you. Now let me just tell something else. One of the things that you may want to be careful is not to smear any grease in front of the sensor itself. So basically, you may try to use a Q-tip with alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, and just bring it in front of the sensor and wipe it clean, but careful because there is grease around, and try to do the same for the other one. There's also another sensor here right in the center. It's again another diode. Just try to wipe it clean on the sides and maybe also on the top. I'm not sure if the top does react or something. This is for pulling the cassette in. I can just talk about another issue when the cassette gets stuck inside. That will happen oftentimes on older generation of VHS. This is the latest one. Actually, I think is the last one or so. The date here shows 2003, so 20 years from now, back in the days. These later units, my opinion, if for any reason you want to watch VHS videos or just nostalgic thing or something, these are the best options. Oftentimes they are going to look cheaper than the older units. I'm going to explain in a moment why it's the cassette stocks in the inside. But this later unit, notice this is the motor. Again, this I should have been unplugged it from the wall, but I'm just filming now, so don't touch anything when you have power in here. This motor here, it's having direct drive to all the gears that drive the cassette in and out. These are the latest generation and last perhaps VHS, and the previous generations from the 90s and 80s, the motor actually had a belt, and obviously that belt now is 30-40 years old. It's rotten, and that's one of the reasons why the cassette will stuck inside or will not get inside as well, because that belt is gone by now on those other generations of VHS players. And the second reason for those generations is, you see this last generation, this is the power cable, goes direct into the board. There is basically no capacitor, one capacitor there, but the previous generation of VHS players had a lot of capacitors on the power adapter assembly unit. Those capacitors also do fail. So If you're looking for one VHS that plays things and works, this later generation made after 2000 are the best. They all almost always look cheaper. This unit basically doesn't even have those digits in front. There's no display for this unit, just a couple of LEDs. So they look cheap. The assembly, the unit itself is very light. It's kind of square. It's not flat. It's not fussy looking, but it works. If you get a brand like GVC, it should be decent enough. There was a problem with late 90s with the capacitors on the unit that go bad. It was a bad capacitor batch. Your unit will lose sound, will lose image. We had quite a few issues, but these units made after 2000, 2002, 2003 should no longer have that issue. So these are the safer ones. No rubber belts, direct drive, no capacitors on the power adapter unit. It's just much better. There are a few gears, plastic gears in there, but it seems they are strong enough. They will stand the time test, and should be just good enough. Also, these units usually have four heads. Actually, the head, I'm not sure you can tell, is those small tiny holes in there. There is one of them. There is the second one. Is not this. This basically is just a big metal cylinder that spins on a bearing. The lecture head and recording head are these tiny small openings. So the forehead thing makes it, from what I understand, when you pose the image, it makes you have a good still image. That's about it. And perhaps fast forward or reverse also has a more stable image. That's the point with foreheads. So grab one of these if you need for any reason to play cassettes, if you have a cassette or something, memories or whatever, and try to get one of these units that had direct drive and no power adapter, a big unit with lots of capacitors. Thrift stores, $10 or so. Ideally, it's good to have a remote. Remote is really not essential. It's just that it's fun to sit on your couch and just play back, stop, pause, fast forward. It's just, but it's not essential a remote. You can just press play on the front of the unit and it will just work as well without remote. By the way, to access this, you just need to remove the top cover. I did remove the front cover as well. You don't need to do that because I wanted to watch this, check this mechanism. I thought it was something wrong with the mechanism here, but it's not that the problem. It was really the sensor. Again, there is another sensor like this on the other side. So there's two of them plus the center 1/3. You don't have to remove the front end of it, although it's quite easy. It kind of has plastic clips. Just remove the top cover, top side cover. It's one piece, has usually screws on the side and a couple of screws at the rear as well. And careful if you plug it into wall, be careful not to touch anything around.